Hello and welcome to another episode of Self-Improvement for Women. I am your host, Hope Long, and today I am joined by Rachel Goss. Rachel, I'm so glad you're here. Rachel is a self-growth coach, and she helps with nourishing, authentic, and loving relationships within yourself, right? And really moving from that place of self-rejection and the negative self-talk and stuff into a place of self-acceptance and self-love. And so, Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm glad to be here. Excited to have our little chat.
Yes.
Yes.
So, especially, I think I find this the most in the online space. There are a lot of women that do struggle with negative self-talk. They struggle within themselves, and maybe unknowingly as well, because it's been ingrained into them for years and years, for a very long time. But it's like an empty factor and like not a wholeness, right? And so I kind of want to dive in and talk a little bit about your experience with this and how you came into this industry where, you know, not really, it's, do I want to use the word industry, or do I want to use the word like, I don't know how to hold on, we're going to redo this because I don't want to say it's an industry. It's not so much of an industry. It's like what's the word I'm looking for?
What do you want to say? If you just use the word industry for now and then just give me some context, what do you want to say? We
Um,
can
I just
miss.
want to talk about how you came into this space of coaching, right? So yeah, that's what I'll say.
Just said it.
Sorry, I'm like half awake this morning. I worked last night until like 11 o'clock, and so I'm like super tired. I'm like, oh, okay, let's get it together. Let's start again. This time we'll be okay. All right. Is that me or you?
No, that's me.
Oh,
My email notifications, but I don't know how to turn that off.
okay.
It's a bit annoying, isn't it? But
It's all good. It's fine. Okay.
it's
Let's
live.
try again. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Self-Improvement for Women. I am your host, Hope Long, and today I am joined by Rachel Goss. Rachel is a self-growth coach, and she really specializes in nourishing your authentic and loving relationship with yourself, really moving from a place of self-rejection into a place of self-love and self-acceptance. Rachel, I'm so glad you're here today.
I'm happy to be here, Hope. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. So I do want to talk about your experience with this and how you came into this coaching place, especially. And I don't know, do you work particularly with just women, or do you work with men and women?
I work with men and women, yeah.
Men and
But
women.
I would say that predominantly it's women, but I do
Mhm.
have the odd few men who come along, cross my path. Yes.
Yeah, I think women, we kind of have a history of self-doubt, negative self-talk, and we see it a lot in the online space in particular. And we see a lot of negativity in the online space toward, our bodies, toward our career choices, toward how we parent our children, all these things. And I think subconsciously, sometimes they just get ingrained in us, right? And so I want to talk about your experience and how you came into this coaching world and how you help women.
Yep, great. I'm happy to share. Do you want me to
So
start?
what got started with it? How did you get started with this?
So a little bit of back history is that I was working in corporate, and through all those years, throughout my 20s, 30s, into my 40s, I'd always struggled with mental health in the sense of the negative self-talk. I had a bad image of myself. The perception was I wasn't good enough, and it was a secret. Nobody knew. I just lived a life that everyone would just think that Rachel was, happy and content, and with life to a general, I was, but not with myself. But like I said, I kind of kept that to myself, and it wasn't until actually I lost my job, and that came unexpectedly. And then I lost my best friend to cancer, and it all kind of happened quite quickly. And I had then decided to go on into looking at how can I develop myself. But at the same time, I always was in the industries that I've worked in, helped people. It's just what I like to do, um, being in the leadership roles. And so I kind of got into the coaching industry because that was for me just a feeling of what I wanted to do, but also to kind of get to know myself at the same time. Um, and so, yeah, that's how I kind of fell into it, really. Took one course after another and got interested and just really dived into the whole, um, what we're all made of. Who am I think was probably a big quest of mine that started to rise up within me. And just one step after another and following a windy road, this is where I've ended up, doing something because of what I've healed myself.
Yeah.
And I know that if I can do it, other people can do it. And I think it's necessary, certainly in the world that we're living in today, as you see with what's going on. So
Yeah.
uh,
I
it's
think a lot
important.
of times something that happens very frequently is, particularly for women, we get lost in, what we do or who we are to other people versus who we are inside. Like, I am a mom, but I'm also a partner. I'm also a business owner. I'm also a coach. I'm also a lead gen expert. I'm all these different things. Um, but at the end of the day, what I do and who I am to these other people is not relative to who I am to myself, right? And who I believe myself to be. And I think that we get lost in that sometimes, and it's uncomfortable because then when we sit back and think about it, we don't know because we spent so much time being all these things to other people. We sit down at the end of the day and we go, okay, well, what about me? Who actually am I? And it can be a very uncomfortable question. Um, what has been so with your experience with this the doubt, like the self-doubt that you're not good enough and things like that. I know a lot of people do struggle with that, and it comes usually from like early childhood and then on, but it can develop at any time. What would you say to those people that are struggling with that right now?
I think, for me, it was that there can, for many people, there can come a moment
Mm,
when they either realize they've hit rock bottom or something happens that just makes them stand for a moment and think, is this really what I want? Um, and for me, it was just a moment that happened to me, that I realized just how bad my relationship with myself had become. And so that was the catalyst to start making a self-inquiry. So I think with anybody who is sitting in self-doubt, that's already an indication that you are living in, let's call it like a lower self, a false self, a self that doesn't know who it is,
mhm.
because a self that knows who it is doesn't doubt itself.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say it's asking questions. That's the first and foremost, is start actually getting curious about who you are, and why you do what you do. Is it because of what your upbringing has taught you? Is it because of what your parents want you to do? Is it because of what your friends, your peers, the people at work? Is it an outside pressure that is getting you to behave and do and feel the way you feel? Or is it coming from something that is driving you from an internal place? And most likely, most people will find that it's an external, because we live externally focused because that's what we're taught. We're not taught to live internally focused. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I know you have a lot of experience with, like, again, moving from a place of self-rejection to self-acceptance. And I know that you work with people on this all the time. And something that we had discussed before we recorded today are, paying attention to how you feel. And when we had talked before, this got like we went a little bit on a rant, and we kind of got a little bit lost in conversation, because when we think about, oftentimes we don't think about how we're feeling to determine um what we're thinking, right? And like one of the things, like, and I know this because of the law of attraction, right? And it teaches that, your thoughts become things, but if you pay attention to how you're feeling, that's going to tell you what you're thinking, right? And it can be a really uncomfortable thing to evaluate your feelings and like really dive into why you feel a certain type of way. And we had talked about doing our topic today, which we're going to dive into now, which is letting your feelings lead. And let's go. There's a lot of directions that we could take this. So for people, especially maybe going through the grieving process right now, and I know you have experience with this, letting letting your feelings lead. And people coming, I know you have experience with grief because of your loss and stuff. When people are grieving, it's not very often that is that an entirely different beast that we need to be focused on versus um like feeling happy about something, feeling angry about something. Is grief a separate entity when we are talking about, letting love lead instead of fear?
I think that grief is a natural process of us mourning something that we've lost. Be that, I mean, when I lost my friend, not only did I lose her, I lost the part of me that had a relationship with her.
Mm-hmm.
So I was grieving a part of myself. I was grieving the friendship that we had. And grieving is something we need to do. It's nothing bad. It's not, it's uncomfortable because we're sad. Something that we've had is not there anymore, and it feels empty. It feels that, yeah, that there's something missing. But if we try to resist that, we're only going to make things worse, because our natural tendency to want to grieve and to feel what that relationship was all about, or what that is that you've lost, be that your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, it doesn't matter. It's a relationship. Life is about a relationship. And so to feel and to honor what you are missing is a form of love, in my opinion. By actually saying, I don't want to feel this, you're not honoring yourself, and you're not honoring the person who is here no more, because now you're blocking off those feelings, and in some respects saying it didn't exist.
Yeah. And we do this with a lot of different feelings aside from grief. Like we don't want to feel, we don't want to feel sad. We also don't like to feel angry. We don't like to feel rejected or lost or anything like that. So I suppose when I say that, like, our thoughts become things, and how we think determine, or how we feel is determining what we're thinking about. Um, when we're coming from a place of negative self-talk, and our thoughts are telling us we're not good enough, or you didn't make enough money, or you're not a good mom, or you're not doing the best job that you can in your career, or you're a bad wife. Those kinds of things that are rolling in our head are coming from an emotional place, and we're feeling, some form of rejection, or feeling some form of fear, right? Because we are afraid of X, Y, or Z. Like for me, I was really afraid of being a bad mom because I was an alcoholic, right? And so for me, I would tell myself all the time, I'm a bad mom, when I was trying to get sober. Nonetheless, I was doing everything in my power trying to get sober. I was trying to do the right things, but at the end of every night I was still going to bed and going, it's not good enough. You're still a really bad mom. Think of all the things that you didn't do, like when you were drinking, or, think of all the things that, how you let everybody down. And that really, like, that was a point for me where I was like, I've got to change how I feel about this and how I think about this, because it was affecting me during the day. I was going into depression, even as I was trying to do things. It just felt like I was spinning my wheels. It felt like I couldn't get any traction, right? And so when I started to praise myself a little bit more for even attempting to get sober, right? Like just attempting it at all. I was like, good job, me. And it was really dumb at first, right? I felt really silly. But eventually I was like, hey, I've been sober for like 2 months. This is amazing. I'm doing a really good job. And I believed myself because I put in the work, right? Um, and I think that driving fear, particularly, that fear of failure and that fear of not living up to somebody else's expectations, or things like that, that kept me in a rut, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you hit on a good point there because, what are we all looking for? We're all looking to feel happy,
Yeah.
feel happy. But we will then think, if I only have this, or that, or if I do this, and that, I will then be happy. So we've got it completely the wrong way round, because the first thing we're searching for is to feel something. So that means that we need to first tune in to what is it that we are feeling. And then we need to ask our mind, how can I get that feeling?
Yeah.
Right? What we do now, in the most part, what I did before I started my healing journey, was I would do it the other way around. I would be thinking something, but my focus would be on what I didn't want rather than what I did want. I knew what I wanted, but then I would focus on what I didn't want, and what I didn't want would give me a bad feeling. And then I would just perpetuate the cycle of going around, because if I'm thinking something negative, I'm going to feel negative. I then translated that, okay, that doesn't make me feel good, so I'm still doing something wrong, and there we just go round and round in circles. Whereas when you change the process and say, okay, I want to feel confident in what I'm going to do if I'm setting up a business. And then say to my mind, what is it that I need to do to feel confident? I will come with a plan, and then I will take action. Of course, there's one, if in the beginning of this cycle, you're going to always flip back into the, where the mind is going to come up and say, wow, you can't do that, or you can't do this. And then you're going to feel pants again. You're going to feel not good, right? But that's the indication. Your emotions are a guidance system. So your emotions are saying to you, when you're having a thought that, and it doesn't feel good, it's saying to you, hey, you're going off track here. You're going down a path that is negative. It's not going to get you where you want, because you're focused on the wrong thing. You're not focused now on what it is that you want. So then going and noticing, okay, so I'm feeling not good. Well, what do I do? What do I want to do to feel better again? And then you ask your mind then to help you and support you. What is it that I need to do to feel better? And then your mind will cooperate with you. And so then you will again take action. So the healing path is emotions, you feel, then you think, and then you act. The trauma path is, I'm going to think, I'm going to feel, and I'm going to act. Because your mind is basically being fed the negativity from the moment that you were born, to a certain extent, because everything was external. So it's all about achievement. It's all about being something for someone else. It's about looking for love in somebody else. And so the mind will only behave, like tell you stories based on what it is that you fed it. And a
Mhm.
lot of us have fed a negative story about ourselves. So it's always going to be coming from that place until you decide, I need to change the way I think. And to change the way I think needs to start from tuning into how I feel. And then when I go from there, I'm then going to be able to go on a healing path. And that's exactly what I did. I used to think, I'm just, I don't like who I am. I'm not good enough. I'm ugly. I'm hideous. I'm all of these long negative things. I believed that I lacked something.
Mhm.
Um, and so I acted from that, right?
Yeah.
Um, and when I said to myself, well, if I've, after 40 years, got myself to this place and it's not really feeling very good, I'm never going to change it. I've got to cotton on. I've got to like realize that. And I did. And I thought, well, I'm just going to try and do it the other way. I'm actually now just going to say, you know what? I actually just care about how I feel. That's all I'm going to focus on. How do I feel? I care about how I feel.
Mhm.
And from that, I then started to commit to saying to myself, no matter what, even if it seems selfish, I'm going to put myself first. I'm going to put my feelings above anything else.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that helped me when I was coming into this place of self acceptance, in sobriety, was I would really like put focus on the people that I was with I try so hard to stay in the moment, because the second I started thinking like, and I hate the phrase stay in the moment because it's very overused right now. Like everybody says it, it doesn't mean a lot anymore. But when you really think about it, how am I going to stay in the moment? I'm going to put my phone down, right? And I'm going to sit on this floor for 15-20 minutes, and I'm going to play blocks with my 5-year-old. I'm going to pretend to be 5 years old for 15 minutes, right? What's the big deal about that? And it made me so happy. I was like, oh, I like this. This is good. This is a good feeling. And I was like, okay, how can I continue this good feeling while I go to work? Because work is not always a good feeling, right? But you go in and you realize that you want to feel good. And so you continuously you start conversations in which you're going to feel good about.
Yeah,
You smile at somebody because it feels good to smile. And like it changed everything when
yeah,
I decided that, yes, I cared about how I felt, right?
yeah,
Because in the alcohol, I didn't care how I felt. I knew I didn't feel good. So I wanted to fix it. And fixing it looked like alcohol, right? And
yeah,
that was like a really terrible cycle. But in sobriety, you can't do that because you're not supposed to pick up the booze. So you had to find other ways to make that work.
yeah.
And really going into things with, it's like a shift in your perspective,
Absolutely.
and like it's amazing. And I'll say, like, when you shift your perspective, the whole, like, the grass really does look a little greener. It really does. Like when your perspective finally shifts and you make that decision that you're going to pay attention to how you feel and that you do care, everything just gets brighter. And you'll find that, like, it's going to sound weird, but new opportunities will come your way. New people that are amazing are going to come into your life. Like, it kind of just opens the door for you to live this life that you wanted to live originally, right?
Absolutely. I mean, trauma in my, be that big or small, is it happens because we change our perception
Hmm.
of who we think we are. Because if something happens to us, right, it happens to us, and it's not a nice experience, we start going down the, it was my fault. I should have done this. I should have done that. You know, obviously, I wasn't good enough for that, or um, I deserved it in some shape or form because of the way I behaved. Whatever the story is, we start to tell ourselves. And so therefore we look at ourselves differently.
Hmm.
And only through looking at ourselves differently do we create our trauma. Yes, what happened to us can have been a bad experience, but it's not who we are, right? But we
Right.
attach what happens to us and we make it something that we, that becomes an identity. It's like, If I was, if somebody is raped, or you're a drinker, you've been an alcoholic, it's like all of a sudden now you are saying that you are a bad person in some way.
You identify as that event
Yeah,
or as that
yeah,
period of time.
yeah.
And I know, like, this is I'm going to say something and it's controversial, but I hate that AA forces you to introduce yourself as an alcoholic, because that is not who you are. It's just why you're in that room right now. Like, that's all it is. It's just an explanation on how you got to where you are, but it is not who you are. And we say it a lot and we repeat it and we repeat it. And sometimes it's a very negative thing because people have a very negative connotation of the alcoholic version of themselves. Like, I am at peace with who I was and the things that I did, because if I hadn't have done those things, if I hadn't gone through those things, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have had this amazing journey in sobriety. And this journey is how I, like, developed all these amazing relationships, and now I see green grass, and, like, it's great, right? um sure, it sucked for 10 years, like, and I was, like, really in it, but you know, I'm at peace. I was an alcoholic. I am recovering. I'm in recovery, and things are better now, right? But just as you say, people will say, "Oh, well, I mean, you can relate it to almost anything, but
Well, it's like when people say, I'm angry. No,
yeah,
you're not angry. You
yes,
are experiencing anger at
yes,
this moment in time. You're
yes,
not an angry person. You are just experiencing the emotion of anger, because emotions come and go. I mean, they don't last. They
yeah,
don't stay with us. It's not permanent.
yeah. And kind of circling back into that fear factor, right? We There's an acronym for fear that gets used, and it's false evidence appearing real, right? And we are afraid of being a certain kind of way, which, again, that negative connotation to and I relate it to alcoholism because that's my experience. But there very much a fear. When I was trying to get sober, I was afraid that I was an alcoholic, that I had this experience of alcoholism. It made me afraid. And then I was afraid to get sober because I didn't know who I was going to be when I was sober, right? And then I was working through all this stuff. But I'm finding that none of it even mattered. Like, it was all just kind of, it wasn't coming from a place of love. It was coming from a place of fear. And when we're doing things that come from a place of love, everything energetically just comes to you naturally and easily and effortlessly, and good things come your way, and you realize that life is happening for you and not so much to you. But coming from a place of fear, yeah, it puts this dark cloud above your head, right? And it's so hard to shake it once you get into that. um but yeah, so how can we, let me ask you this, how can we start to practice, like, let's say we have the awareness, right? For the people sitting at home, they're aware that their feelings have not, that they have not been leading with their feelings, right? And they're going to start doing things to change that right now as soon as they get done watching this. How can they start to implement this, right?
So, I mean, the awareness is critical.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing you need to do is acknowledge that you're having an emotion or a feeling that is, let's call it, negative. The reason why I hesitate to use that is because, just as a quick analogy, when you're sitting in your car and you're looking at the dashboard and you've got your fuel gauge, let's just say that a full tank is positive and an empty tank is negative, right? You don't, when the dial is going down, you don't start screaming and shouting at the fact that the dial is going down. You're actually very grateful the fact that the dial is there telling you that, hey, you're nearly on empty, which means that you should go and stop and go to the petrol station or the tank station and fill up,
Right.
because you're nearly on empty.
So we're not screaming and shouting when it's on its way down to E. We know that somewhere in between there is, it's going to be,
It's a signal. to
Yeah.
say, hey, you need to do something. Otherwise, you're going to get into a situation because you're going to end up, stuck on the side of the road with and not being able to go anywhere because you've run out of petrol. So we're really grateful that we've got
Yeah.
that that dial that's telling us something, and that's the same with negative emotions. So when you've got a negative emotion that has come up, um, and you acknowledge that you've got that, that's the first thing, acknowledgement, because you're now aware, and awareness is allowing that emotion to be seen.
Mhm.
And we all want to be seen and we want to be heard. So what we then do is, if it's like a painful emotion, it's loving. We've got to love that pain. And I don't mean as in like sit there and go, oh, this is great, I'm so glad I'm feeling this negative emotion. I don't mean it like that. I mean that when we love our pain, we aren't judging it. We are allowing it to surface, to be seen for what it is, and not attaching any labels to it. We're just allowing it to come
Yeah.
up, out, so that it can be released.
Yeah. And
We don't make it wrong.
yeah, I
That's
think
love.
people get, yeah, that's immediately like it feels wrong, right? Or not feels wrong, but we put it in the wrong box. Like,
Yeah,
this is wrong. Don't do this. We don't like this, right?
yeah,
Um, and when people say sit with it, I love it and I hate it, right? Because I don't want to sit with my bad feelings. I don't like to sit with those, right? It's uncomfortable. Um, but if once you like, yes, acknowledge and let it come up, it kind of goes away.
exactly.
It's like the elephant in the room, right? You don't talk about it, right? If you don't talk about it, but it's there, but once you talk about it, it's gone.
It's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes, yes, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And talking about things gives away its power. That's why we talk about openly about being drug addicts, alcoholics, sex addicts, whatever it is. And when you speak openly about it with people that you trust, of course, and all of that,
yeah,
it gives its power away, right? It
yeah.
doesn't
We
feel
take back our power.
yeah,
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like this looming, again, this cloud analogy, right? Where it's just looming over you and constantly weighing you down.
yeah.
Um, so as people are coming into this awareness, they're ready to shift their perspective on things, and they start to view their emotions as this gauge, right? um when we get that hint, right, that we're trickling toward the empty, the negative, what are some actionable things that we can do?
So we can first pause,
Mhm.
we can stop, we can breathe, and we can get the into our bodies. We come out of our head, and that's by just taking a breath and just calming down and saying to ourselves, okay, I welcome this emotion to show itself, to come up, to let it be seen. So we just talk ourselves through that. We remind ourselves, this too shall pass.
Mhm.
It's not going to stay. It's just like a wave coming in and rushing up onto the beach, and then it's going to go back and fall back. Um, and so once we do that, we're then just welcoming it with open arms, like love. It's like, the welcoming the ugly duckling. You've got like these four little beautiful ones, and then you've got this little one that looks a little bit odd, but you're not going to push it away. You're still going to love it because it exists, because it's the same as the others. We don't want to judge it. We just accept it for what it is. That's what love is. Fear would be like, oh, there's something maybe wrong with this. We need to push it away. We need to get rid of it. And so we just need to get into that feeling of loving. Look at that emotion as a child, if that's easier, as your younger self. And just like you said, I mean, you sit with it. You don't have to necessarily sit on a chair and be like, oh God, okay, I'm just going to let it all come over me. But It's not getting yourself distracted. It's not going and finding something else to do. You could go out for a walk in nature and just allow it to come through. Um, it's fine. Go and have a bath, go and have a shower. It's doing something that you know you feel good doing,
Mhm.
even in that moment when it's when what you're feeling is not good, but the behavior that you're showing is something that you know is nice. Maybe it's going and lying down on your bed and
Mhm.
just being with yourself. It's just being with you, like a compassionate friend.
A lot of times I think people like to do, obviously, like, I used alcohol, some people use drugs to get away from those feelings. But some people use work, and they will start working extra hours. They will, they'll get up early and stay at work late, and they're working around the clock, and they're never dealing with that elephant that's in the room,
Yeah,
right?
that's distraction, right?
Distraction at its finest. And
Yeah.
it's not viewed usually as a distraction because you're being successful, you're going and doing something, you are, whatever it may be, but really it's an avoidance tactic, right? And when we do those avoidance tactics, we're not really making the change within ourselves that needs to happen.
No, absolutely not. All we're going to do is short term, we might feel better, but it's a false better.
Hmm.
And all we've done is just cause if you, I like to imagine it as like a little ball inside of you. It's a negative ball, and all we've done when we've ignored it is we've got it to get a little bit bigger.
Hmm.
Every time we ignore it, it gets a little bit bigger, and it by not paying attention to it, we're actually doing an injustice to ourselves because we're making it grow, and therefore it's going to get even more difficult to have to deal with. So the sooner we recognize that love instead of fear is the medicine, is the cure, because when you love something, you're accepting it, you're um, seeing it for what it is, you're not labeling it, you're not making it wrong. Therefore, if you imagine yourself, the moment that you saw yourself for who you are and not judge yourself, you started to heal, because now you had the room and the space to just like let that part of you go
Hmm.
in a nice way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when we do it the opposite way and we ignore it and we turn away and we don't want to listen, it gets louder and it gets louder, and we hear it in our head, and the voice gets nastier and nastier, um, because fear knows, it's very clever. It just keeps you in this vicious circle. It keeps you stagnant. It doesn't allow the flow of energy to happen. And so through being stuck, which is a lot of what people feel, they just feel stuck, and they keep doing the same thing over and over. So the stuckness happens because imagine that inside of you is getting bigger and bigger. The roadblock is got bigger and bigger. It's like, well, now I can't even see the road. Well, yeah, you
Hmm.
can't see a road because you've kept resisting what was right in front of you. And if you just accept that, hey, there's a roadblock here, let's have a look at this. What is that? Um, you'll start to notice that the roadblock starts to then just diminish.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so for what I do want to get your take on, these tactics that we see a lot on like positive affirmations and um those type of things, because I think a lot of people look at it and they're like, that's not going to work for me. I know for me it did work because I needed to rewire my brain, right? And so I had to practice rewiring my brain. And you know instead of automatically jumping to the negative, now it's not all the time, but a lot of times I'll jump to a positive. right? And I will take a positive spin on things, right? I've become a bit of an optimist. And so instead of this pessimistic version of me that existed, right? Um, what is your take on positive affirmations and kind of the woo and the magic of changing your energy and things like that?
I think that what everyone has to find what works for them.
Mhm.
And, there is nothing wrong with positive affirmations. I mean, anything that is going to help you see yourself in a different light is going to help you feel yourself in a different way, to relate to yourself in a different way. It's all going to be good. But I think it's about focus, it's about intention,
Mhm.
and it's about consistency. Like, to motivate yourself can sometimes have a, a bit of a negative, for people who are, it's like, well, I don't feel motivated,
Right. It's
right? So
feeling
how
those
do I,
feelings.
yeah, so how do I even get motivated? So motivated for some people can already be can already cause a resistance. So for me personally, it was one, saying to myself, my intention is that I'm going to make a priority about taking care about how I feel. And I'm going to get myself committed to that. But if I don't do it one day, I'm not going to say to myself, oh, wow, that was just, and go down that path again,
Right.
because I'm now not feeling good now that I'm having that conversation with myself. So I know that I'm going to just, like, if I do it, allow myself to have that moment and then forgive myself.
Give yourself some grace. Yes.
Yes. And I'll know that I'm just being human, and I've taken 40 years to get where I am. And I hope it doesn't take me another 40 years to get to this other place. And it doesn't, because it's amazing how quickly you can shift. But it's the showing up, and it's being consistent, that every time you make a perceived mistake because you didn't do what you promised yourself you were going to do, by saying, but that's okay, I'm human, tomorrow is a new day.
Yes.
Every day is a new day to start over, and just to keep on the path of saying, I just care about how I feel. I can't stress enough that that is, like, if that becomes the main rule in your life, I care how I feel, you will want to wake up, and you will want to start each day anew. And it will feel uncomfortable, except that it's going to feel uncomfortable, because it's like you're pulling away from a sticky, Velcro-y thing that
Yes.
is saying, no, I want you to stay. I want you to stay what you've always been, this miserable person who just doesn't believe in herself and thinks that she's just not enough, and that, everybody, oh, she's just unlovable, etc., etc. And it's like pulling away from that is going to be uncomfortable.
Hmm. But it's so worth
Acceptance,
it.
acceptance. And then start to love being uncomfortable, because that uncomfortableness is healing you, it's helping you to be a better version of yourself. If
Yeah.
you stay comfortable, then you're never going to grow. You're
Yeah.
just going to stay who you are. You're going to be stagnant. And one day you're going to wake up and just think to yourself, well, all of these days, months, years that I've spent doing what I've always done and nothing's changed, I could have been putting all of my energy into doing the opposite. Treat it as an experiment.
Hmm.
Say to yourself, I'm going to experiment for 1 week, and then I'm going to experiment for a month, you know, and just give yourself some slack.
Yes.
Give
Yes.
yourself some slack. It don't have to be perfect, because we aren't. None of us are perfect. We're imperfect. Life is imperfect.
Yes.
Life is beautiful because it's imperfect, in my opinion. And
Absolutely.
Rumi once said this really nice saying, which was, life is balance of holding on and letting go.
Mhm.
And so sometimes we want to hold on to that part of us that hates ourselves, and then we want to let go of that part that hates ourselves. And the more that we can balance with getting ourselves into feeling better about ourselves, we will want to let go more and more and start holding on more and more to the good feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love that. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been amazing. You guys at home, if you want to reach out to Rachel, if you want some of her coaching, check her out. All of her links are here at the bottom. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been amazing.
Thank you. I'm so hot because it's really humid here today, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh my God, maybe I'm sweating on here. So I really apologize if I'm
No,
sweating.
you look
Really.
fabulous. Fabulous as always. You guys at home, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.